The witch shows up.
We're sorry.
We at KHANTENT would like to apologize for the large number of factual errors we made last week when reviewing episodes 1 through 5 of Season 2 of ReZero.
Misinformation led to confusion as to the identities of the witches, the distinction between apostles, constructs, and witch, and the mechanics of the memory eating done by gluttony, among other things. And that's on us. And the frustration of the viewers is understandable.
Unfortunately, the sum of these issues does little to counteract the fact that this series continues to be bloated as shit with dialogue, as stated by the characters themselves in this block of episodes.
It's also true to say that the fact the show is boring makes it more challenging to give a shit about these details that do little to add to the There's a new message in the goddamn that do little to add to the depth of the show and only matter to its mechanics. However, it is our responsibility to get the facts right whenever reviewing a show, and for our mistakes in that, we apologize.
We're sorry. More like ReZero sorry.
Sa. 交わした約束を果たすとしましょう。姉様、すまる。
Hey everybody, it's time for more KHANTENT!
KHANTENT!
So Nate, what'd you think of ReZero Season 2 episodes 6 through 9?
The show picked up from the first batch of episodes somewhat. I enjoyed it more. It felt like more things were happening.
It wasn't complete torture.
It was not complete torture. Although, you know, let me just give you my short version. There was a moment in, I believe, episode 7 where I said to myself, sorry. This was, okay, it was one of these fucking episodes. Well, someone said, or I said to myself, that I am not totally bored and I am engaged and I am enjoying what's going on right now. Moments later, a turn of events, a conversation breaks out with a little Ryuzu-shima, little elf, lolly, ancient woman who said, quote, the quote of the series, she looked directly into the camera and said these words, "I'm sorry to have made you listen to so long to learn so little." And as we've said repeatedly, that's the story of ReZero right there. That's the worst thing ReZero does. And they admit it. They straight up admit it. So this isn't just us. We're not just making this out of thin air. It's very aware that it is boring people sometimes.
I might have to make a video about just the idea of the difference between something being complex versus convoluted. Because like
a distinction as old as time itself, but people still don't understand.
I mean, I rewatched the original Ghost in the Shell movie last night, and that movie is a really complex political narrative. But like, all of the complications of it like are explained in very fast like information dumps that everything you learn you have to unpack a lot to like fully grasp what's going on. Whereas most of the movie, the actual experience of it is engaging because it doesn't have to explain itself over and over again. Like most of the movie is interesting visuals or cool fight scenes or thematic resonant moments and images that make the viewing experience good. So you want to watch it again just to see all that stuff happen again. And with ReZero, there's so much that I would rather skip because it just is there to make the plot take longer. There's this whole argument that they get into over who will do the trial. The idea is that
indeed. Let's talk about that for a while, because that's a whole landmine.
Well, go ahead and break it down.
Sure,
for me so
I would love to, Digi. So, our previous batch of episodes, a trial is going to happen. Emilia has to do it, but amazingly, Subaru can do it too, and he rushes in to save Emilia. Subaru, in no uncertain terms, makes it crystal clear in our previous batch of episodes, I, Subaru, will not be doing this trial to save everyone because I believe in Emilia. Emilia will be doing it. Our second block of episodes, Subaru turns to the camera once again and says, I, Subaru, think Emilia is a piece of shit femoid who can't do anything on her own. And exactly as I predicted, he's gonna just do it himself. And of course things go on and maybe they'll work together on it, which of course we guessed was going to be how it goes anyway. But the fact that he just straight up says, his whole spiel about I believe in Emilia, everyone else needs to believe in Emilia so much, and then he directly says like, I'll just do it. Obviously this woman can't handle it, leave it to me.
Which leads to this weird role reversal where now everybody else is mad at him because they're like, oh, well, you don't think she can do it? She's like, you don't think I can do it? You know, and like, Beast Boy gets all mad at him like, well, Roswaal wants her to do the trial specifically. So they all snap on him, even though, like, he has a flashback to Beast Boy literally telling him, like, you do it instead, or something like that. This is not explored again. Like, if this contradiction was important and we're supposed to, like, keep tabs on it,
this
it
whole
hasn't
idea,
come up again.
This whole idea that Roswaal wants Emilia to do it is obviously there because, okay, like, Subaru is thinking logically. Emilia is having trouble with this. I'll do it. Perfectly logical thought. The problem is he was so against that idea like 2 seconds ago, and he's changed his mind and his rationale completely. And now he's doing something differently, and it's fucking annoying. It's fucking annoying that his mindset changes so fast. It doesn't make sense. It's annoying.
And it doesn't, like, the whole argument about it, like, ultimately, all we get out of them arguing about it is the fact that Roswaal wants her to do it, and that's why they are opposed to him doing it. Like,
and Roswaal is obviously inserted into the narrative here to force it to go that way because Subaru has come to a logical conclusion. I'll just do it. We need a narrative reason, a word of God, why Emilia will do it, so that Subaru won't just do it himself, which he obviously could.
It's just so much goddamn arguing over emotions in this show.
That really is the greatest sin of this show. These endless arguments about feelings that any clear communication would solve the problem of, but it just doesn't.
Except for when it's convenient. Then it suddenly is very clear.
Like episode 18 of season 1, that does do stuff. But just because sometimes it works doesn't mean that all the other boring conversations are suddenly good.
So, like, the first half of the first episode we watched was just like a bunch of bickering bullshit until finally he goes back to the mansion again. So at the end of episode 5, he had gotten killed by the Bowel Hunter after going back to the mansion to, I think, save Rem. Why is he going back to the mansion again?
I don't remember every little detail going on here. There's a lot of going back and forth.
It's only the impetus of the plot, but yeah, I don't remember either why he has to go back to the mansion anymore.
I don't feel bad about not remembering either, because there's so many details to keep track of here. I'm sure the scholars online are going to tell us all about the intricate details.
We're definitely going to get shit about having the witch wrong, because she's not the witch of envy, she's the witch of greed.
Our confusion about the name was justified because it was in fact a different witch, not the witch of envy. The witch of envy is Satella, the witch of greed is Echidna.
Right.
Got it.
Satella is dead, so she would not be here.
No, Satella is the only one who's alive. Echidna is dead.
Okay.
The one he meets is dead.
Okay, so she is dead, and but she ate all the other witches before she died.
I think the other one, Envy, ate all the witches, and she, Greed, hasn't eaten anybody.
Well, then how does she have all of their, like, soul? How can she, like, summon their souls to...
I think they're just all in that graveyard together, and they can just swap out, and she happens to be the one in contact with Subaru. Why is that? I don't know. Maybe we'll go into it later, or maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe she ate all of them, and then the Envy one ate her, so it's like a Russian Matryoshka doll of witch powers. I don't know. I don't
either. Well... They get back to the mansion. There's a whole scene where Subaru's trying to talk to Francesca, the Beast Maid, and Ram comes in and lays down the law, dominates her. I thought that was pretty great.
That was funny.
Ram is one of the only characters who, like, is enjoyable to watch in this show.
I made another note. This wasn't the case until this block of episodes for whatever reason, and even in this time it was annoying, and I think I found the distinction. Ram's repeated overt insults for almost no reason are really funny, and her overt praise for herself that is totally unwarranted is really funny and endearing, unless other characters stop the plot to address it. Yeah. And then the joke becomes played out and awful. If she just slips in a, like, I made this tea for you, beg me on your hands and knees till the end of time about how delicious it is, and no one comments, that's funny. I'll laugh and we'll move along. It's all about timing.
It was ironic, though, because, like, at the time, Francesca had still not done anything, and I was kind of just, like, thought it was funny that we've brought this character back, and now Ram is just clowning on her. Like, I was just like, why is it that I'm still now thinking the new characters suck? But she finally transformed into a big monster, went off to fight.
That didn't do anything for
was
her
okay.
personality. That just did something for, she has
at least
the power.
like did something badass. Like that was my biggest complaint about these characters before, was like they didn't do anything. Like it took so long for us to get to the point of them even literally like just doing something relevant, like even attempting to fight or help out. Yeah, she still doesn't have like any personality basically, but at least she fought the Bowel Hunter.
Ladies and gentlemen, a brief musical interlude in honor of Best Elsa, the Bowel Hunter. Let 'em go, let 'em go, let your blood and your bowels flow. Let 'em go, let 'em go, no uncut stomachs no mo.
So there's a big dumb fight. The lolly gets killed. I totally forgot that like episode 6 was like super hard up on painting Petra as like the next, like a, making sure she's in the harem.
She's definitely in the harem, no doubt. It's the little sister role, possibly. We'll see.
But yeah, so and then at the end of this big fight, Subaru's like ready to die to reset everything, but he gets rescued by Beatrice, who pulls him into the room, and he's pissed off about it. He's like, why'd you save me? You should have saved all these other people. And basically, they get into an argument, and this seems to be, I don't know if it's just for this arc. This show always just sets stuff up and leaves it there. It's just constantly adding new shit and never resolving fucking anything.
Like, remember that one mention of the fall of the Tesla Fortress that came up at one point? That's probably going to be relevant at some point.
But, like, there's this whole bit where they get into an argument, and sort of the key question is, did Betty save him because it was written in her book? Because she has this tome that basically tells what's supposed to happen, and she just does basically whatever her part in it is, whatever it tells her to do. But she saved Subaru. It's unclear whether the book told her to. They get into an argument. She says, as if you could have moved my heart. That's the defense she has. She's like, there's no way that would have happened, which is her way of saying that is exactly what happened. I think it's pretty obvious that she saved him regardless of the book. Doesn't really understand why herself, and neither of them can really explain their shit to one another because they're both under all these curses and bullshit.
You're giving him too much credit. Forget the curses. It's shitty writing.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I meant
curses and stuff.
That's what I meant by they're under a bunch of curses.
And you're right. The true curse is the author's writing ability, or rather, the tropes he feels the necessity to employ to drag out the dramatic weight and tension of the scene. Is Betty a good guy? Is Betty a bad guy? Our genre savviness just tells us we know she's a good guy. This is just to make us. This whole scene is constructed to be like, oh, we've been wondering like kind of why Betty was nice to Subaru. Didn't really make sense. Oh, now we know why. And, that's a fine trope to employ. Oh, it was because she's got this book of prophecy or whatever. And wait, is that the witch's book? Does she work for the villain? Is she a bad guy? I just know the answer is no. I just know it already.
I mean, we're getting closer and closer to this world feeling like it was literally built around Subaru, in the sense that, like, the witch tells him in episode 9, I think, that the return by death is a power that he will always have because the witch who gave it to him just does not want him dead.
Yeah,
like, she wants him to keep coming back, wants him to keep living and striving or whatever. So, like, to me, it seems like what we're eventually going to build to with this series is that this is all in service of Subaru doing what he's doing. At the end, is that in service of her or of himself? I do not know.
Well, of course, while we're jumping around, at the very end of this batch of episodes, we do apparently meet the Witch of Envy, Satella, finally herself, in some form or another, where, like, her only word is, Aishiteru, I love you, I love you, I love you. So there's clearly like a love thing going on for Subaru to some degree. Yeah. He's getting all this special treatment. He has the superpower, and his meeting with Echidna, it's made clear that like only he matters to this destiny. Everyone else can die or be sacrificed. It's about getting Subaru to where Subaru needs to be to make something happen. And the goal now of ReZero is to avoid getting your friends killed along the way through whatever convoluted means you need to do.
It puts the impetus a lot more in his hands to realize that, like, okay, he doesn't have to save anybody. He does not have to. It's his decision to save people that causes him to die. Like,
Yeah,
if he was just trying to survive and not trying to help anybody, he would not end up using Return by Death, basically, because he's only using it because there's something he's lost he wants back. I mean, aside from him just getting killed and, like, you know, regularly. But, like, he's only really ever gotten killed in service of helping people, you know? Like, if he had just hung out in this world, never done anything, or if at any point he had just run away.
Well, I mean, that's true. But, I mean, of course, there were times when he did nothing and still got killed. Like when he was literally catatonic and Rem carried him and he still got captured by Betelgeuse and all that shit happened. So, he's in a position where I think he's going to be forced to take actions or... I mean, he might survive, but, like, he's not a guy who can handle his friends being killed. As I think most people would react in some way if you know that your friends are going to die, and you'll have to do something about it, even if it's just sit there and screech autistically, which is his go-to tactic.
Episode 7, we get another one of these convoluted conversations where the characters are arguing about half-blood versus quarter-blood.
Oh, that was a riveting discussion about the technical I mean, I care about technical details, but when they're so clearly constructed just to facilitate the current narrative, it feels too convenient. Did you know that the barrier only prevents exactly half-bloods, not quarter-bloods? They're exempt specifically half-bloods.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Are you excited yet? Are you interested in this narrative?
So the two Beast characters who we've had, who we knew were brother and sister, they actually have different fathers. So one can leave the barrier and the other can't. I don't know why this information, A, wasn't relevant then, or B, is relevant now.
I was wondering why Francesca was able to leave. And we now have an answer. Did that answer require a 5-minute scene? That's the scene where the little elf girl says, "I'm sorry I explained things to you so slowly and gave you so little information." And that apology was warranted.
Yeah. I feel like there was another quote where Ram said something similar. She was just like, "This is a boring discussion."
Yeah,
or something like that. And we were just like,
yeah.
Why? Why'd you have it then? I'm trying to remember exactly how this played out, because basically... So when Subaru comes back through in episode 7, he's like, I'm going to do the Sanctuary Challenge and all that. And then Beast Boy freaks out on him and they kidnap him and like throw him in a dungeon. Was that in that episode?
I don't remember. Who cares? The answer is who cares what exact episode these things happen.
He gets thrown into a jail cell, and Otto comes to save him. And there's a setup that he's going to betray him, that Beast Boy offers him a jewel, and he's I'm gonna fucking take this jewel. But then he shows up, and you're suspicious of him, but then he straight up explains, like, no, I was offered stuff, I decided not to take it because I am your friend, you've helped me out all these times. And of course, Subaru is also expecting to be betrayed because Otto betrayed him in other timelines, you know, but in this one, they have a friendship, and he's shocked at the thought that, like, this guy considers him a friend and, like, wants to be his friend. He's like, wow, I can't believe it, this fucking guy.
I guess that scene was kind of endearing. It was fine. We established a friendship.
That scene was fine. Them leaving, I thought that was a good twist to have us think that he's going to betray him again and then turn out to be a good guy. But then it gets like a little bit ridiculous because, so Otto's just like, oh yeah, I had help. And then we go outside and it's like, oh, the help was Ram. And it's like, okay, well, that means that, first of all, that means she planned all of this because this moron didn't. And then...
And Roswell ordered her to work with them.
Yeah.
So that's another person in their service.
Exactly. And then we find out that, like, all the villagers are, like, standing around in the woods with torches to light the way for their escape or something?
Weren't those villagers being held hostage by the fucking beastmen in town? That was happening last time I checked. Did they just give up? Has something changed since then?
This is the stuff, like, because of the time loops, it gets really hard for me to keep track of, like, what is the status when we go into a new time loop? Like, what is still relevant?
I don't think this particular detail changed. I don't know what would have changed. The whole point of
he was in jail for a couple days, I guess. I couldn't tell how long he was in there either.
They said 3 days he was in jail.
Okay, so, but that means he has 1 day to get out, so that's why they're escaping to the mansion at the end.
Yes.
Okay, so, like, yeah, all the villagers helping out was weird, and, like, because who are these people? What can they do? Like, I understand they want to help out Subaru, but, like, they're standing in the woods with torches. It seemed unnecessary.
I don't know what... I mean, I guess they were generally obstructing Garfield, who is chasing them, in his Catman form, and lighting the way out.
He wasn't even transformed yet. Like, they were
You're right.
I mean, we've seen this cart driver driving through darkened woods that look exactly like this before, commuting with like the spirits of all the animals to navigate and shit. So like,
Yeah,
why
is
do
that
we need
necessary?
villagers? But like, what it all leads to is this scene where fucking Catboy hulks out, turns into a big tiger, and just starts fucking mauling
I
people.
hate Mondays!
Yes.
Garfield smash!
He kills Otto. He kills a bunch of villagers. I don't know if this was in the plan. I don't know what he's what assumptions he's operating under that he thinks that this is the right way to go. Is
They
to
said
start
something about
murdering
how
everyone.
he can't leave the temple while Emilia is in there, proceeds to leave the temple and chase them while Emilia's in there.
Murder a
these
bunch
people
of
didn't-
random people. But
This
these
is-
people, so we see the villagers literally just like throw themselves in front of this big thing to save
ready to die.
Subaru and just get
Yeah.
mauled. And I'm like, there's no fucking way this would. I don't care how much they like him. Why in the fuck would they do that?
They're not like soldiers of a military or something.
No.
They're just random people.
They literally just threw themselves in the way to save Subaru, and like I get that we're trying to say basically that Subaru has reached a point in the narrative where people really care about him.
Yes,
you
yeah,
know,
clearly.
like he's done a lot of things for a lot of people. People really have his back. You know, to the point that they're willing to throw their lives away. But like the senselessness of it, like there were ways to do this scene that wouldn't have felt so ridiculous.
They got evaporated by the Catman.
What were they thinking? What did they think they would do? Like, why would they?
I mean, they did successfully delay it so that Subaru could get to the barrier, which activated the pendant, which did a whole other thing that we can talk about.
I guess that's fair to say.
So
I just thought it was so like cartoonishly over the like I got the point it was trying to make.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really dumb way of doing it.
Agreed. Well, so the next scene after that, we see somehow, so the stones are doing some weird shit. There was some discussion at some point about how teleporting? Wait, are you talking about teleporting? That's weird. Because when Subaru first got to the sanctuary, he got teleported into the gravesite of the witch, or whatever the place is called. And now, as he's leaving the barrier, he acquired like another one from someone else, if I remember correctly. And this now teleports him to presumably the future? It's snowy now, so I'm guessing it's the future. Or maybe something else has happened. Then the sanctuary is covered in snow, and there are rabbits. And the rabbits emerge, and I thought they were ram, because they have red eyes and a little horn. But no, they just eat Subaru alive, like this. That's what happens, and it was pretty cool.
See, that's like this is another one of those places where I mean, I guess on some level I'm almost impressed by the scale of the arcs in this show, that it really does try to like just involve so much stuff. But like when we got to the rabbits, I was just like, what the fuck is going on anymore? Like I thought we were dealing with sanctuary trials. Now it's Operation Kill the Rabbit Swarm.
It has become Operation Kill the Rabbit Swarm, correct? Because what exactly does this have to do with breaking the seal? And I know that they're going to be linked, and that's all fine. But I don't blame myself for feeling a bit overloaded with information at this particular point.
Just feels so roundabout. It feels like we're always opening new threads, never tying up loose ends.
You know, maybe some people, I could see, some people probably really enjoy that. Some people really enjoy feeling lost and being like, whoa, I don't understand the full scale of the facts here, and it'll feel good to see those things all tied up in a bow. I can understand why that's probably enjoyable for some people who might like that. But for me, I don't know, because I've just seen, a decent amount of shows similar to this, like, I'm aware that, like, at the end of this conclusion, it's not like we'll understand, like, the true depths of humanity, like, all the answers of the cosmos will be open to us when we understand this riddle. It's just convoluted for the sake of, like, delivering action set pieces and expository emotional dialogue,
and
which are
lasting as
fine.
long as fucking possible also.
And I feel like I can feel that. So like if you like it, that's great.
It's like when I think about the fact that scene in episode like 16 or whatever of the original show where he dies. Well, he dies all the time. The one where he dies in the snow.
Yes,
and
that
you
one.
had said that like the author called that the prologue, as somebody had told you.
Some people in the comments were questioning and said that it might be a little bit later was the prologue, but something like that. Yeah.
Even if it was all of season 1, it wouldn't surprise me, because it definitely feels to me, I mean, we kind of talked about in the last video that it feels like there was this sort of soft reset where the author said like, oh, I fucked up by already having Gluttony and Sloth be killed, so now it's going to turn out they're just agents of bigger
felt that
Gluttony
way,
and Sloth, and like, it feels to me like maybe the original plan was for a much smaller story, And then as he was building and he got to the point where he had all the goddess candidates and all these countries and stuff, he probably had a way bigger idea for the story. And
Ain't that how it always goes?
Let's like, change it so we can tell the bigger story and make it go on forever because it's very popular and lucrative.
And one other thing that gets introduced here is this, obviously in the last batch of episodes we saw it coming, and I think in general, once you introduce a concept like the Witch of Envy, you're going to be like, what about the other sins? And now we've met a couple of the other witches we've met, I guess, 4 of the total 7 sin ones. They feel surprisingly like light novel characters, because you got like the Genki lolly one, you got like the big like tsundere lovey-dovey angry one, you've got like the gluttonous child, I don't know, and then you've got like my girl, best girl of the show, Enkidu, I can't remember her fucking name, Echidna. She's the hottest girl. I like her personality, and whenever she's on screen, the plot and information does move forward. So I'm always delighted to see Echidna.
Well, it's funny because she's the Witch of Greed, but she just acts like a ReZero character, whereas the other 3 act like, just embodiments of the cliche of what they are.
Yeah.
Just to signal to you, these will not be important characters on the level that Echidna is.
Until one of them polls well in the popularity polls, and then they will get a fully fleshed out backstory that I
don't know
can't
if
wait
there are
for.
popularity polls for light novel characters, but
Yeah, maybe not.
So yeah, I guess we'll get to this whole witch banquet because that's
Let's do
basically
it.
all episode 9 is.
Tea Party 2, baby, and I was ready for it.
So there's a scene, and I think I talked about this in one of the videos, that ReZero, I think that like what the core message of ReZero is to tell the audience, you are Moe. Like you yourself, you're looking at all these girls who are cute and you want to protect them, but you two are weak, you two are in need of protection, and there's a lot of the girls, letting him lay on their lap and take the weight off, And so this show is like, yeah, you're going to have to do all this hard stuff. You're going to have to do crazy shit. But, you're being appreciated. And so the Witch of Envy says to him, I have been watching you. I've seen everything you did. Not envy, but greed.
Yeah, right.
She's like, I feel like it was very like a God kind of moment. Like that's what people want from God, is like the idea that someone will notice their good deeds. Someone will notice everything they've done. Like someone will recognize what you've really been through.
And of course, Subaru has been very isolated for a number of reasons. No one knows what he's gone through except he himself.
Right, except for now her, who, he tells her about return from death and then just keeps saying it over. I returned from death, I returned from death. I've never gotten to tell anybody,
Clearly he can talk to the witches about this specifically in this dreamland or whatever. And that is clearly a big release. That, I guess, was a fairly emotional moment. It was okay. It's another one of these scenes of Subaru freaking out, and while I understand the emotions, it is draining from the audience. He's shrieking like all the time, and so they really don't save it for when it matters. They just do it every episode, and so it's just, I appreciate it, but she's like, okay, calm down, calm down. The show is very self-aware. It's like, we're wasting your time. We're taking too long to get to the point. Subaru, please calm down. They're saying all the things that I'm thinking watching the show.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be appreciated that way. Just like Subaru likes to be thought of in the show as like, oh, now I can talk to someone about the rebirth from zero. I, as the viewer, can have my frustrations expressed by the characters, and it feels good. So, Gesamt Kutzwerk.
I like the Witch of Gluttony. She's cute and fun, and she has this line where she's like, how could you expect to eat without expecting to get eaten? That was like her sort of when he asks her, why did you make the white whale? She's like, well, it would feed a ton of people if they ate it. And he's like, well, it eats people though. And she's like, well, them's the breaks. Like,
it's like that line they say generally in all kinds of things. Like you see it in anime and whatever. They're like, don't draw your sword unless like you're ready to be killed. It's that whole like only be ready to, or only attempt to kill or threaten you're going to kill someone if you are ready to die.
Right.
Which is
which you
an
should
old
always
maxim.
be, because there are creatures out there that want to eat you.
True. Yep.
Whether literally or emotionally. So
if you don't prepare yourself to deal with those potential threats, you can be asking for trouble.
Exactly. So yeah, I thought it was entertaining logic from Gluttony, why she does what she does, and I also like Wrath. While a cheesy character, I like the idea that Wrath is like massively projecting, or like that she's angry, but because she's so sensitive, like she's like crying as she gets mad, you know?
I didn't even really understand what they were going for with her. I mean, you see her and she punches and that like heals Subaru, whose mind was broken, and I was like, oh, here comes lust, because there's hearts on screen. But no, it was
I figured
Wrath.
it was Wrath right away. But like, well, because she just keeps screaming about how angry she is and how she wants to like do something about that anger. But like what she does about it is heal him and like be super dere and nice. So it's like this idea that like, yeah, she's angry and wrathful, but the results of the wrath are not actually negative, you know?
The show, look, not to shit on Mr. ReZero, who made this show, who wrote the light novel. This guy thinks he's so fucking clever. I know, I'll make Wrath not be traditionally angry at people, and I'm gonna blow the people away with this stellar realization. It's fine. I'm just not impressed, because it's like we are one level above just angry Wrath Man to, I'll just subvert that. There's nothing clever being done with it. But you know what? Maybe he'll fucking blow me away. Nothing in the show has blown me away so far, but maybe the writing and characterization of Wrath specifically will be the thing that blows me away with this man's writing ability.
It's just...
Let's find out.
It's sad because I know that the further we get into this show, the more other people will be even more emotionally attached. Like if you already like ReZero, then going into season 2, you're going to probably lose your shit at Subaru's backstory scene, or him crying in front of the witch about how he tried so hard, and her saying, "Oh, I saw you." And all
I mean, those worked on me to a degree here and there.
It's like the difference between like and appreciation. You know, like I appreciate what the show is doing, I just don't like it. It's just boring for me. Like I can have, there are moments where enough is happening for me to actually be like, okay, like at least I'm watching fights, or at least I'm watching like emotional dialogue that means something. Like I like that it means something, but like, and what it means can be interesting sometimes. But the bulk of the actual experience is just like, these aren't characters who I would want to hang out with or be around. I want to watch them do things, you know, and they don't do that much.
But I mean, then it comes down to what is the purpose of the show? What are they trying to say with these characters? And I mean, the only one... Rem and Ron have their like history, and like Rem is a character who's aspiring to live up to a burden, and Subaru is obviously trying to improve himself, whether he wanted to or not. He's now in a position where he has to improve himself. And you know, we talked about this last episode, but like I loved, on the subject of like the good and the bad, I loved the first scene with the dad in Subaru's flashback. And then they did it again, and I'm like, well, now I'm bored. Why didn't we just cut it off with the first good one, where we covered everything important, and now we're just doing like superficial stuff that's less interesting? They just need an editor to cut down the stuff that isn't interesting and just keep the good stuff. But I think because it's a light novel, they just need volume. They're aiming for volume.
I mean, I think there's also the element of just, again, you and I are less engaged. So like something like the scene where Otto gets smacked in half, or the scene with the bunnies. Like, they try to make it at least somewhat dramatic every time because they don't want it to have no impact. But when you're watching it with the cynicism that we are, there is no impact. And so wading through all the drama of it is like, okay, like, now we gotta, like, at least with Otto, with that particular scene, it was I was actually kind of impressed how little dramatics there were with it, because it was like, well, this obviously isn't gonna matter, you know? Like, we knew that right away. This is just to show us a crazy thing, basically.
I reject the notion, to you and our viewers, that I am at all cynical about this show. I believe I'm just responding as objectively as can be to a show that's being presented before me, and it's not my fault if I'm comparing it to other things I've consumed in my life, and it stacks up better or worse than others of them.
I guess cynical is not the right word, but just like not being engaged. You know, it's like, if I really cared about Subaru and what's happening to him, then like when he wakes up in the snow and it's all mysterious and quiet, I might be like, oh shit, like what's going on now?
Okay,
but instead I'm just thinking like, well, okay, either, like, there's two things that can happen. Either the time's about to reset and none of this will matter in this timeline, or the time's about to reset and things will be different this time, you know? But like, generally all we got was information. Like, the timeline does reset, right? So what did we learn from this bunny scene is just about the bunnies. So all the drama of introducing the bunnies, like, you know, I guess it works in that it it's memorable that he got eaten by the bunny rabbits.
That was the most horrific death I think he's suffered yet.
Yeah, it's
That
just
was
like
fucked up.
everything up until the moment that it actually happens. It's just kind of like, all right, well, now we're here. Like, nothing else has been resolved yet, but now we're in another new place, and now another new thing's getting introduced, and another thing's happening. All right, it's just like, I just want answers. I just want things. I just want there to be a moment where there's a big payoff, and then we introduce something new, you know? Instead of just constantly introducing new things.
I didn't hate this batch of episodes. It was decent. It was good, I might even say, at times, and it had the usual dragged out moments. And it's always going to keep introducing these new elements because that's just the kind of show it is. Yeah. So I'm trying to keep that in mind and not be like overly critical beyond making the point that it's doing the thing again that ReZero does. There it goes. I've made my feelings pretty well stated about it, I think.
In many ways, you could say that my criticisms of the show are criticisms of me as a viewer of the show as well. That, like, this is a show that is meant to reward patience. It's kind of thematically baked into the plot that this is difficult and repetitive and boring to do. You know?
Yeah, and that's why I think the story would just work way better as a video game than as an anime, because your expectations for stories are lower. You're not locked in, anime style to like a certain time slot where the pacing is really important. You can do it at your own pace, or a manga. A manga would also feel better. And again, it's not bad. It lacks self-restraint when it comes to dialogue and like indulging in the moment-to-moment emotions of the characters that's the thing. You really do have to be bought in to all the momentary feelings of the characters. And if at any moment that wavers for you, it'll start to become boring. And I think that's just been my issue.
It wavers heavily when you introduce a bunch of new characters I don't care about.
You have to go through the label on each one of making them interesting and fleshed out and
I
all
feel
that
so
stuff.
much more energy to watch the show when Roswell or Ram is on screen than I do when Beast Boy is on screen. Like, I want him to be gone when he's on screen. I'm just like, please let this scene end.
He's just a tool, but a tool that exposits dialogue that's like, I'm angry. Grr, I'm still angry at you. Still yelling about whatever it is I was yelling about. So I'm sure we're going to get the moment where we fully come to understand his perspective and he's joined the team forever. But in no way does that change our moment-to-moment appreciation.
People have said that season 2 is supposed to be better than season 1, so maybe these last 4 episodes will entreat us to some truly crazy shit that we did not see coming, and we'll be like, wow, all of this was justified. I should never have doubted.
To be fair, when we were at this point in the last episode, we were balls deep in the fucking Ram and Ran stuff, and that got pretty shitty for a while and was boring. This is better than that. This is better than the second leg of ReZero. The first one was better than the first leg of season 2, I think. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's all about where they go from here. Hopefully, next is the last third of the first half of season 2. So hopefully they wrap up this Sanctuary thing, because I'm ready to be done with this Sanctuary thing.
Very ready to be done with the Sanctuary thing. Can't believe I'm still in the Sanctuary thing.
They didn't labor on anything for this long in season 1 that I can recall. Maybe like the final battle, but that was the final battle of like the whole arc, so that deserved it.
I guess we should have just taken this Sanctuary thing as though it was going to be just as important as that mansion battle was. Like, there was going to be just as much of an arc to get through this as that was.
I blame them. I don't blame myself, because the stakes were so clearly way higher with everyone dead. Right. And now, I mean, now that we've seen the bunny thing, we infer that, oh no, the bunnies will kill everyone, and so we need to do something about that. Okay, the stakes are now set, but that happened like 9 episodes into the arc. Yeah. So.
All right, well, join us again for that, and also for the current season anime that we are still covering. We also, around when this comes out, should be very close to us doing our new season impressions video. So look forward to that. We'll be talking about all the new shows that have just come out.
Those are always a favorite, so watch them.
And we also have a subscribe star where you can get bonus episodes every single month where we talk about interesting, weird OVAs that nobody cares about, as opposed to only covering shows that everyone cares about.
By the time you've heard this, available now is, what was the first one? Prefectural Earth Defense Force and Vampire Wars. Available now on our subscribe star account, $10. Go check it out.
And
see you next time on another episode of KHANTEHNT. Bye. All right, here's what we've been waiting for, the big finale, baby.
Here I stand, slitting guts all day. You can keep them all. Bowels are filled with shit anyway.